Let me turn on the microphone.
Benefit of your mom, but yeah, and I told her we'd be down there for 10 and then I'd take her to the store. She still had.
There's quite a few people. There's Preach, Paul, Niffy, and John Spark from Lanier.
I think she's maybe driven to the mailbox and back. Yeah.
1 second here.
Is Steve on there? Because we
Yeah.
need,
Mailbox.
Steve is not here.
Yeah.
what is a quorum? 3?
I think the quorum is 3.
Yeah. 3.
Can someone confirm that you have an audio?
Copy that.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, you said Niffy's on?
Niffy is on, correct?
Okay.
I can't hear you. I don't know if that's on my side.
Call the meeting to order. Hello, sparse audience. Okay. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Niffy? Niffy?
Oh, he just jumped off.
Uh-oh, okay.
I saw his face.
He was on there for a second. He's back.
Second doesn't count.
All right, Niffy, can you hear us?
Niffy?
He's muted.
Niffy, can you hear us?
We can hear. I can hear you.
We're looking for Niffy.
Oh,
I think Niffy may be having a connection problem.
he's muted.
Steve's not on, right?
You know, Steve's not on.
We're dead in the water if Niffy doesn't get back on.
Well, he could always jump in his car and drive up here.
Yeah.
If you're gonna get any business done, you might need to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, there we
He's
go.
the only one home watching.
Niffy, can you hear us?
Try to call. Can we call him on the phone and see what's going on?
Niffy? It might be, the background's
think
coming from.
He's gonna try to dial in.
Okay.
I'm gonna try it down.
Or is there something in the chat? Maybe you wrote something.
No?
No?
Got it. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Niffy?
There's a couple of phones on the line here,
Steve's trying to call him.
potentially.
I think I figured it out.
Okay, we just heard that, Niffy.
Excellent. I heard you.
Is he on?
Yeah,
Okay, Niffy, this is the situation there. We need you on for the quorum.
I'm
We have-
on. Yeah.
Okay,
But we
okay.
have neither Steve or Dave.
Correct.
Dave is excused and Steve is not online or here and I have not heard.
that he wasn't going to attend.
Okay.
So
All right.
that's right now an unexcused absence. So I'm on the roll call. So Niffy is here.
I'm present.
Meredith present and I'm present. So that's our 3 for the quorum. Additions or deletions to the agenda?
I'm requested to postpone the discussion on fees until next month.
That would be 5-3. 5-3 is postponed until the next meeting, right?
That's correct.
All right, any other additions or corrections to the agenda, deletions or additions? Hearing none, we'll go forward. Are there any conflicts of interest of the board related to the agenda items? Hearing none, we'll go forward. The draft minutes from the September 21st meeting were circulated to the board, and I'm looking for a motion to accept.
I move to accept the minutes.
Okay. Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Niffy?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. All right, treasurer's report. Go ahead, Niffy.
I was thinking we would skip the treasurer's report and just make sure we have enough time to go through the budget, because I imagine that's where most of our meeting information is going to be. Can y'all hear me?
No, you need to.
Here, there you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Better.
Okay. I was suggesting we skip the treasurer's report. It's already circulated online, and save that time to make sure we have more to go over the budget.
Okay. Do we need a motion for that or not? I don't think so.
If we have a question on the budget, is that we can tell until the public comment?
I have a
Yeah, we're
question on
gonna.
the treasurer's report.
No, specifically about the budget.
Transaction list.
On the proposed budget or on the present treasurers?
On the transaction list. That's
Okay, of
posted
the-
Oh,
on-
well then let's go over that. What's the question?
You know, what was the question, Sheila?
Well, so I just have to ask this, there's says auto pay for Deb Curley for $7,465.86.
Whoopee,
So I'm just curious what that is.
whoopee.
You don't know what it is?
No, I do not.
What was it?
It
7,
says an auto pay. Credit, auto pay, maybe it. Would you have a credit card?
yeah, I have a credit card that's also a, it's not like an individual credit card, it's the
Oh, it's the
master,
auto.
it's the master
So
credit.
do all of them roll up into that?
Yes.
Yeah, so all of like the bills and stuff like that are on auto pay, a lot of them are tied to that credit card.
Yes,
So, I wanna check that.
Yeah. Is that correct, Chris? Am I thinking that's where that's coming from?
That is correct. I believe historically, if you looked at the transaction list that has been posted, I would assume every auto pay credit card is going to list because Deb is the owner of the master account.
that's it. The master account was the term I was looking for. I feel so important, but I have no money.
So all of those things are still on auto pay. We still get obviously a receipt every month from them. So it's still being, posted on both sides of the balance sheet.
Anything else, Sheila? Yeah, that helped. Okay. So we'll go on to the chief's report.
All right. And this is,
And hold on to your seats.
well, we'll keep it a little bit more brief. So regional and county stuff, there's a lot going on in the county with regards to CWPPs and GIS and mapping and evacuations. In fact, actually extends beyond the county. It's going all the way out to the state level at this point. There's a lot of interest in evacuation preparedness and mitigation along evacuation routes. And we got pulled in, I got pulled into a state discussion that's happened, that's been several weeks in, going as far as, evacuation modeling. And we're looking at different, essentially what would be the state preferred vendor for evacuation modeling for all of the communities within the state for DFPC to use. It's kind of a long drawn out process as far as what that will look at. But on our own, in our own district, actually, we have been working with Tom Neer, who's a GIS specialist, to help redraw our CWPP planning units for Jeffco. Tom is also working on evacuation planning for Gilpin right now and how that affects our district, and how it all kind of ties in with our CWPP planning units. I apologize, I'm gonna cough right here a second.
What's his last name?
Tom Neer, N-E-E-R.
I know.
Another near.
It's
Yeah.
Tom and Patty's son.
Oh. Well, there you go.
He is a GIS genius.
Okay.
Yes.
He did send me so I redrew our CWPP planning units after getting some information from Ember Alliance, who is a CWPP planning consultant for the county, as to what we should be looking for. One of the things that happened in the past with our CWPPs is that it was actually based off of almost like homeowner associations, and not everybody in the fire district was actually included in this previous CWPPs. And so what we've done is redrawn the CWPP, so every parcel is included, and then we're also included the public lands, but they're separate. So we have a couple of different CWPP units that are just public lands, but every house or parcel that is occupied by either an agricultural or a residentially or commercially zoned property is in our CWPP now. So there's nothing that's left. So that's a really awesome deal. He also has marked, oh my goodness, I can't remember all of the data that Tom pulled, all of the parcels, values, primary, secondary, and tertiary evacuation routes, all kinds of great mapping stuff that he's done with us. And we're looking at trying to essentially create a master map for the fire district, including all of our water resources, fire stations, where the people are, so we can move forward with like a really good graphic visualization of what the fire district is. And that's going to be a big portion of our own CWPP, but we have that first really big step of that, the new planning units done, which is great. And he volunteered to do that, and he's done a lot of great work for us doing that.
Maybe when it's wrapped up, have a presentation.
Yeah. I'm afraid,
Tell us what he did.
I'm afraid that his ability to talk on that level with GIS would just go over all of our, including my head.
Over our heads.
He's a smart
Not
guy.
mine.
Yeah. Well, and so I will have the maps in the November board report. We will have the new maps. So that's really great.
Sheila?
Can I ask the question?
Uh-huh.
So when we worked on this long time ago in the past, we also included people from J-Cart and G-Cart. Have you done that?
I'm actually not familiar with what those
Well,
are.
those are the animal rescue teams. So Gilpin County has one that's G-Cart.
Okay,
Jefferson County has one that's J-Cart. So
Okay.
it's Jefferson County Animal Rescue Team.
yes, okay,
Everybody up here has animals, and so they're part of the
yes,
rescue. And so they, whenever there's a fire or anything else, then they know that they have to come up and they bring trailers and they
okay.
help evacuate the animals.
We
So
definitely will be talking about that, especially when we actually go through the CWPP. One of the interesting conversations that's happened on the state level is that when we do, if let's say we were to do a evacuation plan, or basically we would do a practice evacuation from the district, which is something that a lot of fire districts did up until probably about 10 years ago, where they tried to model their evacuations based off of a practice evacuation. The thing that gets gummed up is that when you do a practice evacuation, people aren't moving all of their livestock, they're not moving their horses, they're not moving, all these things. And the fact that we have those so many complicating factors, whether it be age of our residents, the large volume of livestock, the complication of our roads, all of those things are really hard to model. And that's one of the things that we're talking about on the state level when we talk about a digital model, because it's actually really hard to recreate that. And it is really impactful, especially into a place like this.
And the 911, whatever it's called, when you fill out the form, they ask
Yes.
for how many animals,
Yes.
yeah. So you're covered that way too. I just wanted to mention.
Yes.
So,
But they don't initiate any
No,
rescue
no,
for that,
no.
they just want to know,
but,
but
yeah,
the carts do.
yeah,
That's good to know. Well, and I'm pretty sure that they're part of the Jefferson County CWPP because it's part of Jefferson County. So I'd imagine that they have a portion in that for sure. And then when we do our own, we will also be talking to them. Hopefully we'll be doing that next year. More in HH, which we're going to cover later in the meeting. The Mountain Chiefs had a meeting with the state representative regarding our regional wildfire needs and also Prop HH. It was a very interesting discussion about the challenges that Prop HH brings to special districts. And I think I honestly am not sure that when that piece of legislation was brought up, if that was really understood. And I think that there's a lot of really good support from our state legislature for emergency services. They're definitely there to help support us and they want to see us succeed. And, you know, despite what happens with HH, they're really there to help us move forward. They're really hoping to try to bring new funding mechanisms for fire mitigation on public lands into districts. And also hopefully looking at different funding strategies for potentially even private lands at some point. So they're really working on that really hard in the state legislature right now. I met with EMS educators from St. Anthony's after the split of Centura last month to discuss our training plans. We are going to remain with what is now Common Spirit and St. Anthony's or EMS through 2024. Our medical director is going to remain the same. Our training coordinator did change. So our actual person that facilitates our EMS training for the fire district did change during the course of that split. So I did have a chance to meet with him. We're looking at doing some additional EMS training opportunities as we try to kind of enhance our EMS capabilities in the fire district. But the thing that we also really talked about and that they're interested in doing with us is community CPR and first aid education. Hopefully on a relatively regular basis. My hope is probably looking at doing it twice next year, where we'll have a community CPR education experience with first aid experience that'll be hosted by St. Anthony or by Common Spirit. And they're very, very interested in partnering with us on that idea. Document administration, I'm working really heavily doing our insurance updates, making sure that all of our items of value, our fire trucks, our stations, everything's accounted for correctly as we move forward, make sure that we're properly insured, but also making sure that we have proper values because all of that data that's actually given to the insurance company is the data that gets used for the Nexus study for impact fees. So we're using it kind of to do both things at the same time. And then also making sure that our workers' comp insurance is up to date. We had some older roster changes that needed to happen with that, whether it was adding or changing board members and board member coverage, or updating our firefighters and also figuring out what we needed to do for workers' comp for our knee division of support services. So I've been working pretty heavily with CSD on that. And we are done at least with the workers' comp as of today. And we'll finish the rest of the CSD stuff before the end of the month. Great news, we received a very significant grant. The big thank you to Chris Enright and to Lori Brew. We have, it's detailed in an attachment to the chief's report, but it's a structural PPE grant with a total value of $32,939. We received 12, if I can remember right, 12 sets of full bunker gear, so jackets and pants, 12 helmets, 12 boots, 18 hoods, and 12 pairs of gloves. So it is a very significant and needed refresh to our PPE complement. We hope next year when we go through the budget that we'll be able to hopefully get a little bit more PPE and refresh all of the PPE for the firefighters at that point. We talked about the PPE or about the CWPP. I'm in the process of submitting a first round grant application for what's called the COCO AIM grant, which is to help offset the cost of the budgeted 2024 CWPP process. It's a 50% match, some of which can be an in-kind volunteer match. However, this is a very, very competitive grant with limited funding. But it does represent our best opportunity for grant support for that CWPP update. As we'll go through in the budget, it is definitely a significant expenditure for next year. If we can get grant support, that'd be fantastic. Becca Causey has been working really heavily on our website update. She is on the final stretch here of getting that done. And I intend to have the new website to share with you guys during the next board meeting. The next board meeting should be a lot. There'll be new maps, new websites, all kinds of fun stuff like that. Operations has been plainly for this fire district. It's been very, very, very busy. We ran another call today. So we're at a total of 84 or 85 calls. I think they ran one yesterday, so I think we're at 85 calls. They've all have been really significant as well. We've had 2 significant backcountry rescues. We had a wildland fire event that was started by lightning over on Crawford Gulch. We had a very significant motor vehicle accident where a motor vehicle crashed into a tree, severely injuring the occupant and trapping them within the vehicle. And then we've had several really severe emergent medical calls. So we've had now either 9 or 10 calls for service within the last 10 days. We're running about a call a day consistently for about the last week and a half, which is pretty busy. We did have one day where we ran 3 calls within 12 hours, which is very busy for the fire district. Huge thank you to all of our firefighters who have really stepped up, because none of these calls have gone unanswered. And most of them have had multiple firefighters responding to them. We had a very significant response to the wildland fire incident. We also want to thank our mutual aid partners that really made that a successful event, where we got a really good stop on what could have been a crazy little wildfire based off of where it was.
When was that?
That was on last Wednesday. Last Wednesday.
Wednesday, that's
Yeah.
Leah Gulch.
Oh,
It was
that
on-
crazy little storm that came through.
Yes, it was
Yeah.
actually off of Rocasa, which is the new road that's directly to the east of Thea Gulch. We are working with Jefferson County speaking of Thea Gulch and Rocasa. Jefferson County is working on naming some new roads in the fire district. My understanding from planning and zoning is that anything that has over 5 homes as an offshoot, so 5 homes that would have been off of a Crawford Gulch address or a Golden Gate Canyon address, or even a Robinson Hill address, they will be getting their own road names. So that's where Rocasa came from. I think that was the first one that was done. So that may be coming to change within the district. Let's see, we still continue to see a reduced turnout time with resident McDaniel, and also we've got a pretty good availability of our in-district firefighters that are really getting out the door and getting on the radio fast. And that's really been spectacular. We have 2 new recruits that are fully cleared for duty and are now responding to calls. The other 2 are very close behind them. I would imagine next week that they will probably both of them will be active and operational. One of them is in EMT school right now, and is really highly dedicated, and her main job is I've directed her is to finish EMT school. So I really want her to focus on that instead of doing all the ancillary stuff that we require for someone to go online. But we're kind of working our way through that, but we have 2 people now online. We are at the next business meeting. We're also looking to hopefully move some firefighters from probationary status to full status, which will be a big thing. We'll be fully badging those firefighters at the holiday dinner. So they will be moved from probationary status beforehand, but then we'll do a badging ceremony in tandem with the holiday dinner. Paramedic coverage is still difficult for Stadium. It is still, like I said, it's difficult for everybody. This has been a, like a repeated item of every report that I've given you guys for the last about 4 months. We continue to track and monitor resource availability. We have no reported issues with staffing from stadium within our district, so it has not affected any calls within our district to date, which is good news. And we continue to remain in communication with all of the fire departments and with the leadership of the stadium to making sure that that's being addressed appropriately. We have 21 operational members still, and 5 support services members. We have received 3 applications for firefighters since our most recent hiring. So if you guys remember, we brought on 4 firefighters in August. Since then, we have had 3 more applications for firefighter. 1 of them is in district, 2 are outside of the district. 1 of them is someone who works in Golden, however. And so is, in the district, as we say, a portion of their time. We're going to process those applications on an individual basis and try to bring them on board if they're accepted prior to the initiation of Firefighter 1 Academy, which we'll speak to later in this report. Firefighter Peter Whitenick successfully completed his hazmat operations and is now joins the rank of a fully certified Firefighter 1 for the fire district. Great. Fire 2 Academy. Fire 2 Academy is starting next week on the 28th. It is plainly speaking, this is going to be an incredible training opportunity for our people and for our mutual aid partners. We have 14 attendees from the Fire Academy, from Golden Gate, Golden, Timberline, and Blackhawk Fire. So it'll be a mix of both combination and volunteer firefighters. I am the lead instructor for the Fire Academy. However, we are also hosting training talent from Hudson Fire, Eaton Fire, Denver Fire, and probably Evergreen Fire as well. So officers and chief level staff from all around the metro area that are going to come share their knowledge with this group. And we really are looking forward to that. We have like world-class instructors teaching command and control and auto extrication and foam and fire alarm systems, all these things, and it's really just shaping up to be an incredible deal. And our guys are really, I should say our folks are really, really excited, and so is everybody else from these other agencies. It's going to be a great thing, and I think there's already talk about what this looks like in the future because of what it shaped up to be already. So we're excited for that to happen.
What do you do that?
It's going to be broken up. So we're going to do a day. The first day will be here, and it'll be at the Grange. The second day is going to be down in Golden. We are working with Denver West Towing to use their towing yard to be able to have essentially an endless supply of cars for extrication. We will be doing the fire alarms and fire suppression systems training will be in Golden. So they'll be able to walk through a bunch of commercial buildings and look at really complex alarms. With a really incredible expert on that. He's the fire marshal for Blackhawk. As you can imagine, that's a complicated place to be a fire marshal. And then foam systems and a JPR practice day will be at Timberline. So the cool thing is that all of the districts have really stepped up to help provide instructors as well as places for instruction. Yeah.
You're gonna put out a lithium battery flare?
No, they won't let us light one of those on fire intentionally, based off of what happens when they light on fire. So the next academy, as we talked about, we're going to be running kind of basically 2 of them at the same time, and they're actually going to fall one after the other now, which is good. DFPC Battalion Chief Lori Brill met with our Firefighter 1 Academy recruits earlier this month. We're looking to start that Firefighter 1 Academy in December, so we don't have much overlap. They're going to start working on their pre-work next month, however. So they'll have basically a month of pre-work before we actually meet on a Saturday with them to start working through their JPRs. We're really excited to move forward with that, and we've got great support from DFPC. Firefighter Jude Kenyon, as we just discussed, is an EMT school, and she's is excelling greatly at that. She's doing a great job. I personally am going to be attending several trainings actually over the next couple of months. One of the most significant ones is 2 or 3 simulation days, down with Westminster Fire with a bunch of other Golden area incident commanders. So when I come out of that, prior to my arrival at Golden Gate, I did a 40-hour online training program called Blue Card. And now I'm going to go do the 3-day basically proof of knowledge, where you're tested on your incident command capabilities in a computer simulation, in what they call a CTC, a computer lab, essentially, where you command big incidences, but they're all virtually, or all committed virtually. I'm going to be doing that on the 30th, 31st, and 1st. So that's a big one, and I also have some advanced wildland training. Chris Enright also just finished a very significant tech rescue certification through Goldman, and that happened last weekend that he just finished that certification. He'll be the first person in Golden Gate that meets what we call the Rescue Tech 2 qualification. So that's pretty cool. Lots of good training going on. Impact fee study. Jan Schneider's really done really great headway working with the county to pull all the data that we needed from the county as far as valuations, parcels, things like that. And then I need to be able to get her the other set of data that we need, which is essentially the department's valuations for all of our assets that's coming from insurance. And then when we have both of those in play, we can start working on the actual mathematics and what comes down through the study. So we have a target completion date for that impact fee study on January 1st. Future actions and events. This is all stuff we've already talked about. 6-month horizon, things we'll talk about in the budget. We're talking about apparatus replacement, station updates, financial diversity plan, mid-range strategic plan, and then CWPP. The one thing that I was kind of newer on here, and I think I had it on the previous, but I do want to speak to this for a moment. I've heard a lot from people in the district that they would like to have a community/chipping event. That is something that's really missed from this community. And I'm working really hard to make sure that happens next year. Whether it's something that we put on our own as a fire district, and we do use our own resources to do that, or it's something that we try to partner with the county on. Thankfully, we have lots of our own resources that can help something like that occur. But we are hoping to get some county assistance for that as well. It's a little bit challenging. The county chipping program, it's now called SLASH as an acronym. Their machinery that they're using is so large that it is basically has been proven that it can't come up the canyon. It would not be safe to bring it up the canyon. It's
the same stuff they were bringing up the canyon?
no,
Oh,
no.
That's new
Yeah,
stuff.
it's new. So as of this year, so they have what's called a horizontal it's basically a giant chipper, but it weighs like 70,000 pounds, and it has to be towed by a huge semi truck. And it's an oversized load, and there's no way to get it up the canyon safely. And there'd definitely be no way for us to get it at the Grange. It would take up like the whole Grange parking lot by itself. So we would need to.
If we could get it in the
Yeah,
fence.
if we could get it. So we're gonna look at alternative options for that. But yeah, I've heard that from multiple people over the last 30 days. I do want to make sure people understand and look forward to that for next year, because we are going to try to implement our own SLASH chipping event. The other thing that we're potentially looking at doing is a community wildfire mitigation and education initiative that would probably be with both of that. So whether it be a community training on mitigation, homeowner mitigation, probably before the SLASH collection, and be able to host people at the Grange and do an educational portion for that. And hopefully they would go hand in hand with that shipping event. There also has been some discussion and some question if it would be possible to stand up a volunteer mitigation group within the district. That is a model that has proved popular in other districts. I know Netherland had what was called saws and slaws for a very long time. And we will look into that for next year as well, whether it's done through the fire district or the fire district supports another group of volunteers that do that. remains to be seen, but it's something that we'll look at.
Gilpin has axe and snacks.
Yes. I think that they were kind of created in tandem, saws and slaws, max and snacks, yep. And that's pretty much it. The instant statistics and all the numbers are attached. Is there any questions on the chief report?
Any questions, any comments from people online? To the chief?
I have a suggestion, I guess, that if you are collecting information from people who did fire mitigation this year, we should send out an email telling everybody to send their information to you because people need to know that they should do it.
Yes.
I did it for my neighbors, but that doesn't mean anybody else knows about it.
Yeah, so that's a good point. So if anyone who's on the call has done mitigation, and I think Terry Castaldi is really doing a lot of the collection of data from this and working on this. So we want people to email me with that, with their hours that have been done. But if you've done fire mitigation on your property, if you can give us an estimate of hours or if you hire a contractor to do your mitigation, the cost of your mitigation, so that we can correlate that and then submit that with our FireWise application. That also potentially may have some information that we would need for our CWPP or potentially even that grant application with Cocoa Aim. So please go ahead and send that over to chief@goldengatefire.org.
Meredith is the star of mitigation, right?
Yes.
But I mean, shouldn't we send out an email to a blanket
Yeah, that's a
email
good idea.
to
We should do
everyone
that. Yeah.
who's signed up for email?
I have a question in regards to something you just said, Kyle. You indicated that their hours and mitigation work kind of help support some grants for us.
Potentially, it may help support the Cocoa Aim grant based off of the in-kind volunteer work. I've got to look at how I sat through a very long training on that grant, and it's possible to potentially use volunteer hours for mitigation that have occurred within the fire district to offset the potentially is the key word, offset the cost for the fire district. So it would be part of the 50% match, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it does. And this may not qualify or be part of what you're talking about, but with the amount of fire mitigation work that Open Space is doing in White Ranch, those are fields that we cover. Would their
I don't know. Actually, that's a really good question, Chris.
Yeah.
And I really don't know. It does?
You said that?
Terry?
It should.
Okay.
Our district, it should.
Terry, I think now we're just gonna who would all have that is probably Justin Doty or Marianne Benella.
Yeah, I'll reach out to Justin if you'd like for that.
Okay. Yeah, that would be good. Go ahead.
Sorry, another thing too is we need the cubic yards. I think we estimated an average truckload bed was 2 cubic yards of slash. So we also need that piece from whoever signs up. And also I'm doing a sign up sheet at the Grange, and I pretty much know a lot of people that are slash, so I'm reaching out to them individually to sign up for that too. And I look forward to having this on the website next year for the FireWise certification. So we won't have to chase everybody down, but we're going to be able to do it no problem this year.
We were also able to pull the data from the county as far as who pulled or brought slash to the slash collection sites from the fire district. It was not a direct, we don't know exactly like where the addresses are, but we know how many people did. So that was helpful as well.
Yeah.
And we have Maris too. She did enough for about 20 people.
I was saying she's the queen of the mitigation.
I really hope you don't need to know my cubic yards of slash.
It's a lot. It's a lot. I could estimate I think there's 85 by 5 by 5 files out there.
Probably.
I think that's about right.
The contractor that Meredith used did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
If you want to witness it, I know Sheila's been up there. It's unbelievable when I drove up there. He did just a terrific job.
I think he's still working in the district right now.
Yes, I believe he is.
Yeah, so in general, if you have things, please submit, I think, Terry, estimates are okay, correct?
Yes, absolutely. And I have to have all the data probably by the first week of November, so in about 2.5 weeks. And I'll be collecting it at the craft fair. I've got a clipboard. We'll get it. We far surpassed last year's. I shouldn't have a problem getting it for this year.
And let's make sure people understand, this is not just removing trees, right? This is people who are doing brush removal. If you're mowing down high grass, if you're doing all of those things, we want to know those numbers, right? That because those are for our district, especially up here on Robinson Hill and over on the open portions of Crawford Gulch. That's one of our biggest fire concerns is the light and flashy fuels that come from grass in the open meadows. Cool, that's it.
All right, we're gonna go on to community organization reports. Mary, do you wanna? Go ahead for the,
Sure, we had a very successful pig roast and auction event. Well attended. It seems a lot of people are having a very good time. And the food again seems to be ample, enough for everyone, and everyone seems to be enjoying it. A few bites were left over for the firefighters, and we always like to send them home their care packages, which is just great. And we have almost the final number already. We're down to just one set of paper that needs, and that's a small number. So we're right at $17,000 that we made from it. So we are available to help with foods for these trainings and individual boots. We have done 10 pairs of boots have been purchased with the cooperative plan. So that's a happy piece of information from our perspective. York will need to know what else we can supplement for the individuals out there and see what they need.
you did a fantastic job. It was my first time being up close and personal. Standing around, not able to help because you had your minions that were just like an oiled machine. I think I used that term. You guys, it's just amazing. And I'm so grateful to the auxiliary and your workers.
We have some experience now. We know how to do it. It's pretty
Exactly.
good.
It was awesome.
And we had new people this year again, and we really appreciated the firefighters chipped in out there. We're out there pulling the pork and
Great turnout of
It was
firefighters.
great. It was great.
I think they were having fun.
They were.
And the community loves to, have a chance to interact with the firefighters. Because we know they're out there, but we don't see them.
They don't know who they are.
Exactly. So,
Thank you.
yeah, we thought it was a great event.
Thank you.
And we will be working with Chief on the awards or holiday, whatever you're going to call it. We do have three places identified. Dee Dee has been working very hard to get some information together, so we'll be in touch with you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Terry, you want to do the Grange?
Sure. We've got the craft fair this weekend, 9 to 4. We have right after the Wildland 2 training on the 28th. We have the trunk or treat setup starts at 4. This is a huge event. That last year we ran 94 kids through that trunk or treat. So the parking lot was full, and so we're anticipating the same participation this year. And other than that, you already did the Firewise thing, which I was going to hit on. So that's it. That's all I have to report. Thank you.
Terry, did you say 94 children?
Yeah.
Last year.
Yeah. Last year. It was fun. They rotate out. They show up for an hour or so and leave. They don't all stay the whole time. They do their trunks and take off, and some show late, but 94 was the head count last year.
And that was Canyon, Golden, Arvada. They came from everywhere, a lot of places.
Oh, really?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, because we'd say, "Are you in the Canyon?" "Oh, no, we're in Arvada.
Terry, did we have the fire station open when you guys did that last year?
No, we did use your parking lot, but no, we did not.
Okay, would it be welcome to have, or would you guys want to have the fire station open and have a trunk out of the fire station?
You know what? I think that would be awesome. I think the kiddos would love it.
Can we decorate a truck?
We could.
As long as there's enough lighting, because they have to go from the Grange parking lot up, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Unless you brought the fire truck to the end of the, I don't know, check.
We can talk that at a different time.
Yeah.
But, okay, Terry, let's touch
There
base
you
on that
go.
tomorrow or next
got
week.
Thank you.
You know.
I'm sorry, can you please repeat the date of the craft fair?
That's this
This
Saturday.
Saturday?
Day after, yes. 9 to,
Yep, day after.
9 to,
9 to 4 at the Grange.
yes,
so
this
much.
Saturday.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, under old business, moving on, we have, Dave Primer, who is not here. But we can go ahead with an action item he submitted, and it was published on the website. His, suggestion for a email communication policy. So, I guess we need a motion to see whether we want to accept his submission.
I move.
Don't we already have one?
We do.
Yes, we do. We do have an email policy in place. This is to his suggestion instead of the one we have in place.
Didn't a lawyer look over the last one?
Can y'all hear me?
Yes,
Yeah, we can hear you.
yes, go ahead, Niffy.
I move not to change the policy.
I'll second that.
Any discussion for the board?
Yes, and all in favor of not changing the policy?
Aye.
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 Okay. All right. Just for the general public, our Gmail policy that is in place is on the website. Somewhere, it's there. Okay, under new business. We have a resolution that's been submitted for the firefighters' mission vision, or the district's mission, vision, and values statement, and a new organizational chart. It is an action item to be voted on. Meredith, did you want to handle this, or Kyle, or?
Sure, I can.
Okay.
I mean, I wrote it, sort of. So this is simply a resolution to approve and enact the mission, values, and vision plan that Chief presented last meeting. That was posted online. I hope you've all had a chance to see it. It's very simple and straightforward and caring. Yes. Also the new organizational chart that he presented last meeting. So this is a simple resolution that we want to accept and adopt these two documents as the policy of the district.
There was a motion that passed accepting it at the last meeting. This is simply a further step. It's a resolution.
Right.
And you want to make the motion?
So I move that we accept, that we vote on this resolution and accept it.
I second.
We have a second from Niffy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. That
Team,
resolution.
just a quick
passes.
note. I'm sitting in a Starbucks that's going to close in an hour. So if we can move expeditiously, that would be great.
Okay. Do we want to jump the budget hearing up?
Yeah.
To the next item? Next item.
I would appreciate that.
What else
Okay.
is there? Oh, the SDA thing. Yeah, that's gonna be a while.
And the proposed fee schedule, yeah, we'll talk about that later. Okay, let's address the budget hearing. That's you, Niffy. The proposed budget, which has been posted, legally noticed in the Golden Transcript, posted at both outside and inside at the Grange, as well as on our website. Go ahead, Niffy.
So the budget has been posted. I'm going to let the chief walk through it with y'all, but I wanted to just reiterate that we had a budget committee, which was composed of myself, board member Dave Primer, and the chief. And I'm not going to speak for the chief or Mr. Primer, but we got together a couple weeks ago and sat down and hashed this out. And I believe we walked away with consensus that this is what we wanted to put forward for the board and for our community.
I agree with that. So, Niffy, do we want to go line by line, or should we just go high level on it?
High level, and then I want to make sure that we have discussion with the community to ask about it. I would say, let's not read through the entire process that we went through, but give the highlights on that, and then provide the highlights explaining how we're doing our capital fund and operational fund, that those are now separate things. And then anything that's different. That's what I think most people care about, is what is different from previous years.
Sure. So I think one of the things that's really different about the way that we've done this year, at least compared to potentially last year, was that we looked at the end of the actual projections from 2023 and actually looked back at 2022 and 2021 in some cases, and looked at the actual spend of certain line items, and made sure that what we were budgeting was appropriate based off of that spend, whether it needed to go up, whether it needed to go down, and then adjusted it on line by line on that item. So we literally went line by line and redlined the budget, as far as what could be cut, what could be, or based off of previous spending, so that there was no extra fat, so to speak, in it. And we were allocating money where it needed to actually be spent. So we did, like I said, a 3-year review of the budget of line items. We then received our estimated tax allocations from the county. And it's essentially a 32% increase over our previous budget or tax allocations from 2023. So we applied that to the budget, and then also again went line by line after that again.
32%?
32%. And this is if HH does not pass.
Yeah, correct.
We modified, so we said we modified everything as we went through, just making sure that it is as true of a budget as possible based off of the historical spend or the anticipated spend of the fire district and the needs. And I think we probably touched every single line in this budget and made changes to it. There's very, very few things that we did not make additional changes to. As far as either reducing them or increasing them a little incrementally based off of what we saw as a need for next year. So we brought all of that data that we had in this initial budget to the committee. So I brought this essentially what was a initial proposal of a budget to the budget committee. And then as a budget committee, we went line by line by line and reviewed it all over again as a committee with myself and 2 board members. And we were able to basically talk about and adjust things from the board perspective, to make sure that everything was being accounted for from all sides of the district. Some of the bigger things that are important that we changed were that we removed anything that was an anticipated grant revenue, donation, permit, or fee. Those are things that we as a district are very hard for us to count on. We do look at, though they do end up coming into the district, but for us to put them in a budget, we don't feel as responsible because there's not enough of that to be like over year for us to be able to have as an accountable revenue stream for the fire district. So we actually removed it from the budget. We added FPPA into the budget underneath my payroll expense. As you remember, when we did my my initial bringing onto the increase in the district up to 24 hours. Part of that package was a PPA package, which is still, I'm finally signing the final paperwork work with FPPA. It's been a lot longer of a process than I anticipated to get that put in place. But it is being signed in, and then it's accounted for in here. When we put in FPPA, that's counteracted against the payroll tax, because it takes the place of Social Security tax that the fire district was paying beforehand. So until FPPA kicks in, the district is actually paying extra tax or Social Security tax, and it removes that. So it actually removes what I see as a double taxation against the fire district. So by doing that, so that's accounted for in there as well.
I do want to just jump in real quickly. I know that the number that everyone had in their heads was 78,000. When we originally put this together, by law, there's a match that we have to do on FPPA, and that is going up with cost of living. So that number is slightly larger than what we had anticipated last year. But the base compensation salary is still the same.
Correct. And that would have gone in general, we're offsetting. When we did that, I think, what was it, like 0.5% NIFI is what we saw as like the increase?
Yes.
Yeah. So that is correct. That is allocated in the budget for next year as that increase. Transfer from reserves. So this is the big thing that we're going to see here. Transfer reserves from reserves is allocated for basically one thing. It is for capital expenditures, whether they be for physical capital or for what I call institutional capital, or things that have to do with the operation of the fire district moving forward. We'll go through those line by line in a second so we can talk about what they are, because they are significant to the district. The reserve account balance is attached to the budget, and we can go through that if anyone has questions about it. Is there any questions about the high level approach to how we did the budget and why we did it that way?
Can only give you a offset if HH doesn't pass.
No, so I was hoping that was going to be the case. Originally, we had been indicated that was going to happen, but we will not receive our adjusted tax valuations if HH passes until afterwards. My understanding is that we'll get it, I think it's either by November 24th or 28th is the time that the county assessor's office has to redistribute tax allocations if HH passes. It's very quick that the county will have to do that. And if it does pass, we do have extended filing times. Everything gets pushed back about 2 weeks.
There's a sheet that
Yeah.
says if it passes, the due date is changed.
Yes.
Or dates have all changed.
So the thing that's important about HH, and John, I'm just going to address you directly based off of this one, is that if it passes, we will have a decrease in our operations revenue. It's not going to affect our reserves or our plans for reserve spending. Or it hopefully should not. Our increase of 32% will probably go down to somewhere between 15 to 20%. So we'll see an overall decrease of 10% in the operational budget.
That's what I was looking for, at least the ballpark.
That's
Could
the
it be
rough
as
ballpark.
bad as what it is today?
No,
No, the answer is no. It's somewhere in between
right.
one today and
Correct.
32%.
The thing that's hard about HH as we move forward is that based off of.
Don't try to explain it.
Okay,
Yeah.
you know what getting explained. Yeah. It will, the HH may be progressively worse for the fire district as we move forward. And that's the thing that's most dangerous about it. The other thing that is important, a high level on this budget that we did, that I think is important, that's worth mentioning, is that we actually created a savings mechanism within the fire district. So instead of saying, hey, we're just going to transfer everything that we don't spend at the end of the year to reserves, we actually have a reserves transfer to reserves allocation at the end of the budget. It's actually part of the budget where we're transferring to reserves as a set item, line item. So even if we take money away or out of reserves, we're also putting money back in. Essentially, what we're doing is creating a financial engine that is always funding the reserves, even if we have to take out of it. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. So that's something that was new this year, and I want to make sure that people understand that that's why we
But
do
the
that.
first order, it sounds like that is on the order of what worst case reduction would be if HH passed. Therefore, you're essentially budget neutral in the worst case. Because you got about a 32,000,
Yes.
so. Okay, I got it.
And I don't know if that would be how we would move forward.
No, I know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. That's probably about what we would lose. I would imagine if HH passes, we'll probably lose between 10 to 15% of the revenue.
So we just wanted to, rather than make two budgets, leave a certain cushion in there. But
Yeah.
we would still likely need to reallocate no matter what. But we know that we can cover all of our operational expenses and the majority of our capital expenses, even if HH passes.
Any questions on that? Okay. So the big things that changed operationally that we've put in here, other than the payroll, which we already talked about, and capital, which we'll hit separate here in a second. We added a health and wellness line item that was there previously. And it is now funded, we're requesting $6,000 for that line item. We're looking at trying to create essentially a secondary health and wellness incentive. Health and wellness is a requirement of the job of the firefighter, and we'd like to help offset the cost of health and wellness for our firefighters, whether that be a gym membership or something like that. So that $6,000 will be broken evenly across our currently 20 operational volunteers. And allow them essentially to submit a receipt to the fire department where they can receive an additional stipend to cover their fitness. That was something that we added as a benefit for the firefighters. So that's a big change.
Excuse me. On line 517 on the CWPP, you previously said that the county or state or somebody was going to potentially match 80%. Is that 55,000 all expenditure of the district, and maybe there's more coming, or would that be offset if you achieved getting an 80% match?
I'll hit the CWPP in a second when we hit the capital.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'll just, as a general rule, we didn't want to count on revenue from any grants. So we put in the full cost of what everything would be. And then if we get grants, it's gravy.
Got it. Thank you. Very conservative.
The other thing
I'm
that
super
changed,
conservative when it comes to money.
the LoSAP and the incentive program increased to just according to having some more firefighters. Incentive program, we looked at some additional changes. However, we're going to hold our firefighters receive up to a $600 a year stipend. There's a lot of tax implications both for the fire district and for our firefighters if we were to change that, unfortunately. So we did hold that the same, but you will see an increase in that line item based off of the amount of firefighters that we have receiving incentive. So that is a significant increase both in LoSAP and incentive. Look at this scan here. Anything that was really big. All of the stations were line for line looking at different costs and adjusting that as is based off of historical costs. We added an increase into prevention and public education. Part of that is based off of the hopeful plan or the plan for next year for doing community wildland fire outreach for chipping and or a chipping program. So that's roughly $2,000 in that just under. Yes.
Could you back up for just a second?
Yes, ma'am.
So Are we going back to just single numbers now for the stations rather than 81, 82, and 83?
No, so in district, we can call them 1, 2, 3. 81, 82, and 83 are the actual like radio numbers assigned for the county. So that's when we say station 1, it's station 81, station 2, station 82, station 3.
So it looks like for all three of the stations, the gas and electric has really gone up a lot more than before. Is there something else in there that?
No, that's just the cost of gas and electric for the stations, right?
And two is like almost $6,000.
It is heating for station 2 and the electrical for station 2, just with the cost of propane and everything that's gone through, that was all also adjusted. And I think, Chris, that's one of the line items that if you think about bookkeeping, that we were going to be above this year. Is that correct?
Yes, we are gonna overspend.
Yeah,
compared to
we're
the budget.
overspending. So we need to adjust for an overspend.
There is something that I'd like to bring up at a later date, but fuel switching for the stations is something that we want to consider. One, not just to upgrade the existing HVAC, but to save money by switching to all electric heating and cooling.
I think Niffy and I, just during this process, there's probably going to be some grant opportunities and some other opportunities to probably update our stations next year to try to move away from gas or propane, which would probably be pretty helpful for the district. So that's what we're speaking to there.
Question, does the presence of the resident firefighter not increase the use of the utilities, and wouldn't that be part of it?
I think it does. She's not been there long enough to show a market for us to see a marked increase.
So are you underestimating the cost then?
There might be an increase for cooking and hot water, but the stations have their temperature set at the same thing 24/7.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Because they need to be able to, you need to be able to just go in and go.
So I don't think it's going to, heating wise, is going to change. The other thing that we added in here that's new is the Golden Gate Grange rental fee. We started using the Grange pretty heavily this year for training and for board meetings. And so we added in a rental fee to pay our part for the Grange because we're such heavy users of that location at this point. And we're really appreciative of that. And we want to make sure that we're accounting for our use of that utility for the district. Dispatch fees did go up significantly from last year. That was set by dispatch. That is the actual fee from next year. The contingency was basically the same from last year. We added a little bit of cost for travel for training. We're trying to increase our firefighters to go and seek training outside of the fire district to kind of improve our generalized knowledge and make sure that we're not being insular in the way that we're training and receiving knowledge. So having travel expenses, whether that is our own cost of fuel for our own vehicles or fuel that would have to be reimbursed or reimbursement for a stay somewhere, whether if they were needed to go far enough where they need to stay in a hotel. So we did account for that. The other really big changes here were software. The software accounting is for us using all of the current softwares that we use, as well as the increase for ESO, which is still not a significant increase, but it is a little bit higher than it was last year.
Where's that line item? I couldn't figure it out.
It's 640, technically it should be 642. Yeah.
Oh, I guess I didn't print that version of the budget. That's okay.
In the past, we've had, because we were SDA members, we were able to get discounts on some of the software that we had gotten in the past. Is that helpful?
The trainings or the software that we got from SDA was for Target Solutions, which was which was never utilized by the fire district. And our ESO is actually going to take the place functionally of Target Solutions.
And they don't have an SDA.
They do not, unfortunately. But it's a much more comprehensive program.
Keep that in mind though, because SDA does have
Yeah, so the good thing, interestingly about SDA is that a lot of the money that they allocated towards something like Target Solutions actually sits in a grant pot for us, that we can use for either training or for PPE. Our hope next year is that we will actually use that grant funding that we have sitting from SDA, in the CSD pool, is actually where it actually comes from, for PPE to help offset. It's a 50% match grant that they do for PPE. And I think we have like it's an availability of 3,000 in grant for them right now. The other thing that's significant that I want to point out, along with travel, is training. So 674, that is a significant increase in our costs of training that we've out from previous years. This is again because we want to start sending our firefighters to training opportunities outside of this fire district to start improving their knowledge, allow them to receive education from really great instructors, whether it's, in-state, out of state. There's so many really good and affordable training opportunities that we want to make sure that we are allowing them to go and receive that training. We've done a really good job of finding training that is cost offset, whether that be for EMT training or for fire academy. I want to make sure that we're taking our firefighters to the next level and allowing them to have professional development available to them. So we allocated for that. Niffy, am I missing anything else big that we changed?
I think that's it, honestly. Yeah. Those are the big changes, and it's a different way of looking at things. I think we covered it all.
Okay. Let's go through capital real quick, and then we should hopefully be done. Capital expenditures. So we have a total transfer of reserves at the top of the budget allocated $170,000. Out of that $170,000 transfer, we have $60,000 allocated for buildings and improvements. These are for essentially taking care of deferred maintenance items in the fire stations. We're not looking at doing some massive remodel for creating a new station or anything like that. We're looking at replacing the flooring in station 81 and 82, repainting 81 and 82 on the interior. We're looking at fixing the kitchen downstairs in 81 and making it a little bit of more of a livable area so that firefighters really want to spend their time at 81, because currently this is not a place where people want to be. We are looking at fixing drainage problems that we have at 83, which is requiring some significant excavation, paving, cement work. There's a lot of things that need to be done for 83 to kind of fix the severe drainage problems that we have there. So we have essentially $30,000 set aside for station 81, $20,000 set aside for station 82, and $10,000 set aside for station 83 for improvements to the fire stations. Office equipment is for pretty much just for computers. So the district needs to update our computer software, our computer hardware. We also need to look at tablets for our command staff to be able to bring on scene. One of the great things about ESO next year that we bring out is to be able to document actually on a scene and hopefully start an EPCR on a scene that actually can be transferred to our EMS partners. And so being able to facilitate that hardware that we need for the district and to be able to operate at that next level that we're really striving to achieve right now. So it's laptops for the stations and for those tablets.
Kyle, phones, you mentioned that they're phones, you need to upgrade the phone.
Then we want the phones are also included in that, because the phones will be laptop based.
I see.
So that's why we're looking at doing, so we're going to move. We've been having a significant problem with our phones at the stations and phone service in general with our landlines. So we're with it in advent of our really great internet with Starlink. We're going to look at doing a VoIP, and it will allow us to do two different things. It'll allow someone to be able to call a fire station and us to automatically receive that message no matter where we are. It can go to myself and go to Chief Enright and go to a board member. and we'll be able to continuously receive that. So messages will not go unanswered that come to the station. But we'll also are going to eliminate the issues that we've had with landlines, where a landline goes down and we're not able to receive messages at the fire station or phone calls at the fire stations, by going to that VoIP program. I think what we have budgeted for and what we're counting or looking at is using what's called Ring Central for next year. Vehicles. That allocation, unfortunately, are a UTV, which we were trying to fix, and we've spent many months now trying to fix ourselves or have a technician fix, has officially been called DOA. It is unfortunately non-revivable. The parts that we need for that vehicle are no longer made, and so it is done. So we have an allocation to be able to buy a new UTV, one new UTV. Ideally, we really do need to try to, in the future, look at 2 UTVs. They're very, very functional for our fire district, one on each side of the district. But we have the allocation for 1 in this budget. And also hopefully the acquisition of 1 more truck from CSP to be able to use as a duty vehicle for our officers, and also a vehicle that people can use to go to trainings outside of the fire district and not have to drive their personal vehicles. We don't want the problem with someone driving their personal vehicle to a training, especially if it's a hot training or a training where they're in a burning building or any kind of IDLH or immediately danger to life and health environment, is that they're going to put their bunker gear that they were in that environment back into their car, and then they're going to travel with that for however long they are from that spot. So we actually don't want them to have to do that. We want them to have a separate vehicle that they can put their equipment outside and travel safely, and also be in a district vehicle when they do that travel. And it also serves the ability for a duty officer to take home that vehicle and decrease our response times from home. So that's allocated in there as well. Equipment. We have $15,000 allocated here. 5,000 of that equipment is for building a gym, which is a huge request of our firefighters at Station 2. Nicole McDaniel has created a small sub budget of equipment that is $5,000 to outfit a gym at Station 2. The other $10,000 is for equipment to either outfit or update our equipment on our vehicles or the new vehicles, whether it be the UTV or the other response vehicle and our fire engines. It is not comprehensive of all the equipment that we need to update by any means. It also potentially is something that we can use as a grant match for other equipment. So if we get a grant that requires a grant match for equipment, that would be where that money would come from. But the biggest thing is that 5,000 of that money is allocated to build a gym at Station 2, which I have heard about every week since I got here, that they want a gym.
Well, okay, there's room in Station 2, so that's the main thing, but
yes.
But that's a long way to travel for people who are in the Douglas Mountain area, so.
Correct. And ideally, I think we'd like to do both, but that's also why we're going to build that gym and then also have the other portion of fitness where we're going to offset the cost of that whatever fitness activity.
Where they want to go to work out.
Okay.
Right.
Get reimbursed.
And I see that as being any kind of fitness activity. Let's backtrack. I see that as being any kind of fitness activity, whether it's the climbing gym, the rec center, or even a ski pass. I see that being something where they're being fit and active and they're benefiting themselves as a firefighter doing so.
Okay.
So that's that cost for capital expenditures. I'm sorry, I lost myself here in this one.
You are on equipment.
55.40. Okay. Communications. This is for the purchase of 2 more VHF handheld BK radios. BK radios are separate wildland specific radios that we use. Their costs around $2,500 per unit. And we have been slowly replacing them for the last 4 years, I believe, in the fire district, and we need 2 more, and we should be at that point complete with our VK outfit. So that's allocated there. And then the big one, the CWPP. So the CWPP, as you guys may know, is essentially, this is where I'm calling it an institutional capital improvement. in the fire district. Because we're not buying something that has a true tangible value to it, but it's an intangible value to the district as we move forward for the next 10 years that shapes the way that we operate. It shapes the way that we apply to grants. It shapes the way that we look at water, evacuation, all the things that are really important to our residents. The bid that we had that came back from Ember Alliance is $55,000. And that's for the very, like, essentially the most simple version of the CWPP that they can produce. They can do more advanced versions of the CWPP, and it's even more expensive than that. So that's the most simple version of the CWPP that we can get with them. It is a very comprehensive and long process. I'm not saying these CWPPs, this consultancy work, it takes about a year. It's not someone coming here for a month and consulting for a month and then presenting us something that's boilerplate for us. There's a lot of work on their side in order for us to be able to move forward with the CWPP. It is very expensive. I understand that. I think it is crucial for our fire district to get this done. We are out, we try to, at maximum, you want to go 10 years updating our CWPP, and we are currently at 12. We will be at 13 next year. So we are 2 years outside of where our rejuvenation window should be with our CWPP.
How much did the 2011 cost?
You know, I don't know. Do you know, Sheila?
Too bad that you can't use that one and revise it and like just update it, but you can't do that.
No. And the thing that's hard, John, about the CWPP that was done, to my knowledge, in 2011, is I think it was actually done by Jefferson County Conservation District, JCD. They do not do CWPPs anymore. So it may not have actually cost the district when they did that. I really don't know. It did?
No, I'm just humming.
Yeah.
And it was done, I'm pretty sure, through the county, because they signed off on it.
It says JCD on the cover.
Right. But it isn't something that you would just like to have. It's something that you absolutely need in order to qualify for federal funds. If you do not have one, they won't even consider you. So the fact that it is out of date needs to be done and is a long-term benefit. Hopefully you can get some funding, but it's the price to live up here.
And I also will say that study, what comes from a CWPP, is beyond the capabilities of the volunteers of the fire district. There's no way on a volunteer level that we can produce a CWPP.
No, I mean, if you just read the old one, I mean, it's a very detailed.
Correct.
The topology, the grass risk versus the fire. I mean, it's a very good comprehensive. It's a good point of departure, only to use as a reference to what it is that you want to do with this new one. And it does, in it, exclude homeowners. It makes a reference to, farms and single dwellings. But obviously, the new one has to include everybody in it.
The old one excludes quite a few dwellings and private land holdings. It also includes public land and all of the users that go with public land and mitigation planning that would come from public land, which impact users on both sides. It impacts your homeowners as well as your users of the public land. So in general, what we're looking to do is a much more comprehensive look at the fire district in our response area altogether, instead of just looking at specific areas within our fire district that are associated with a homeowners association or whatever it be.
Has this outfit given you a written proposal with respect to the contents and the detail that they would provide for the 55,000 estimate?
Yes, it did.
Could you post that on your website?
We could do that. Yeah,
Thank you.
we could do that.
I would like to do that.
Yeah.
Or have you do that.
Yeah.
by the way, I'm not sure where I read the old one, but you want to have it in the same, here's what we did in 2011. Here's the proposition in 2023 or 2024. And then you could do a little bit of a comparison to the content of what this new outfit is offering versus what was done before. And maybe a decision has to be made to elevate some of the capability and the current projection. You said that there's a higher level. What does that mean?
It's more about it's more about the deliverables, like different deliverables, like different ways that media can be consumed. It's not, the information doesn't change. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a website that has, is it CDW? So,
I think I found it on the state, that's right, the
Yeah.
California Forestry.
oh, yeah,
They do it by county and then it actually breaks it down into the district. So that's where I actually found it and pulled it off.
so you can read all kinds of other
Yeah, that
CWPPs just for comparison.
very useful.
Yes. And I'll say, so my like experience with, in general, with contractors. So Ember Alliance is a nonprofit. And I've worked with them in Boulder County, and also now with Jefferson County. So they are definitely like I wouldn't say they're one of, but they're kind of the largest player in the CWPP realm, but they are a nonprofit. And they really, that's the way that they operate. So they're not a for-profit consultancy. They're out there specifically just doing nonprofit consultancies for CWPPs. Oh, yes, they do. But I think, like I said, like the hours that goes into this, I mean, you're probably talking several thousands of hours, many thousands of hours. Yeah.
I could believe that.
Yeah. Okay. So those are the big costs. And as we said, so just to make sure that we're clear and everyone understands this. So while at the top of the budget, we have $70,000 that are being removed from reserves. At the very end, we have a transfer to reserves. So we have a transfer to reserves. Let's see if I can pull it. That's the net revenue. 31,906. So essentially, that's a net spend of right around 100 or $139,000, 138, 104. Does that make sense? Yes. So that's the net change, and I believe Chris may have actually generated a report that had that in there.
Yes, you want the projections,
The
the cash.
Do you want to go over the projections, Niffy?
Sure. I mean, it's high level. It's posted online, but basically, like our current cash balance is 440,000. When we look at our operational spend and our transfer from reserves and then back to reserves, we're going to be ending potentially at 230,000. So we are doing a drawdown on our reserves. So there is a delta there, but it's going to good things, as we mentioned with the capital expenditures. So we are still net revenue neutral on our operating expenses, if that makes sense. And this is purely coming out of that. Gosh, I'm blanking right now. I apologize. Coming out of that capital, yes. It was important to me that we didn't run any operating expenses out of deficit spending. That was a hard line that I put there. That and in no way should we be taking from reserves in order to pay for our annual operating expenses.
I have a question about those reserve projections. So, I mean, I see the operations and the budgeted capital spend coming out. What I don't see is the money going back in. So wouldn't you add 30,000 or whatever that number was that you have budgeted to put back into the reserves?
Chris, is that in there?
It's it's not a true move back into the budget because it's already accounted for in our estimated 2024 tax income. So if I specifically put on cash flow analysis, this additional 34K, basically the $291,222 that is listed as estimated tax income, we're not spending $291,220. We're spending $271,000, and so there's your $20,000 differential. So it stays within cash, and the majority of our cash moves to reserves. And so the total amount that moves into reserve at the bottom of the budget is roughly $32,000 because we will receive interest income on the reserve fund.
Okay. All right.
So there's one thing that I want to address that is a common question that I field from community members, and that is what do other fire districts target as their reserves versus their annual tax income? Like what's the percentages look like? You know, we talk a lot about, you know, the multiplier. We have this much times our annual spend, this much times our annual tax revenue. A lot of our surrounding districts in Jefferson County, they range anywhere between 30%. They only hold 30% of their annual taxable revenue in their reserves. So their reserves compared to their annual taxable revenues are much smaller. There are districts that hold all the way up to 1 time their annual spend, and there's some that go over, like which we had in our past, or as we do right now. The large majority of the fire districts sit somewhere between 30% or 33% and 100% of their annual taxable revenue. So just in general, that's just to answer a question that I feel that all the time, that is the general consensus is somewhere between 30 to 100. I think 30 being a little bit more aggressive with your budgeting versus your reserve, and 1 being a relatively safe and conservative approach towards your budgeting. Reserves in general they're not saving for the retirement of the fire district, right? We're saving, the fire district's tax funding comes every year. It's a reliable source of funding for the fire district, which is why some people sit at 30 and they feel comfortable with a district that sits at 30% of their annual taxable income to be able to offset when they're not receiving those tax funds at the beginning of the year. And others feel comfortable sitting at 1, and some feel more comfortable sitting at above that. But in general, the general average is between 130 to 100%.
There's also, in my opinion, we don't make money, or we don't really help the district by just sitting on cash, but we also don't help the district if we have no reserve. And there's also the view of, if you're spending all your money and you need to do a capital upgrade, the only option you have is to raise taxes. So in this way, by continuing to build a reserve, we won't necessarily have to raise taxes when we want to go out and make a capital expenditure that the district needs. So again, it's just, we run lean and we run smart, in my opinion. And I think we're just going to try and continue that practice.
And that's why we felt it was really important that we put that savings, essentially that mechanism where we're reinvesting or always have money going into reserves in the budget moving forward. I think that's pretty comprehensive. Niffy, do you have anything else to add?
Any questions from the public online or present?
Is there a negative side to what you just said relative to, I mean, I like the conservatism. It's something I'm comfortable with. But if I went out and asked the government, FEMA or somebody, to give me $100,000 grant to buy a new truck, and they knew you were sitting on $100,000 or $200,000, would they not come back and say, why are you doing that? Why don't you just spend your reserve?
That can be a factor.
Is the reserve, when you apply for a large grant, are they requesting you to give you a financial budget statement.
Yes.
And you expose,
Even small grants, you're required to do that. In fact,
including the reserve that you're holding.
yes, like one of our firefighters is applying for an equipment grant right now. And I know that we were required to provide a balance sheet as part of that, and that includes our reserves.
I think that's a reasonable argument for moving into your CapEx expenditure, the amount of money that you're talking about, effectively to lower the ratio between what your budget is and your reserve in order to give you a little more comfort zone when you go after a large grant. So.
Good point.
There's also, matching grants, so you have to have some money in order to get the grant. And I don't think that it's fair to reward districts that aren't paying, their taxes properly, or that are collecting their taxes and just spending all of the money. I don't think that that's a good behavior to reward. So, we're running a lean operation. We're keeping our taxes at a good level to make sure we're funded. And yeah.
I totally agree with your approach. I just contemplated a potential downside. And
I think what this budget does though, John, is it brings us into a place where we're sitting within the average of everyone else. And that's where I think we're okay.
We have been inventorying revenue and underinvesting in the capital resources that the district needs. So it's clear when you moved 170,000 out of reserve that it only goes into CapEx expenditure and not the OpEx associated with the actual conduct of the district. And on that principle alone, the budget is well-based, identifies a reserve to move back in, contains 15,000 of contingency in one of your line items. You prepared for a rainy day, given the uncertainty in HH and what the hell is going to happen there. You can't even understand what they're trying to do with the blue book that was sent out. I mean, there's no Dick and Jane story that is understandable to the lay person. So I think you've done a lot of margin building, and if anything, this is the first in 27 years that I've seen the budget that I can actually understand line by line what it is you want to do. I think you all have done a decent job, even to the extent of a resolution to adopt the standard form in perpetuity, because in going back over previous years, and I know with Chris and the research that was done, it was a hard call to try to piece the piece of the puzzle and put Humpty Dumpty back together again in the form that you have structured here. So enough of the soapbox. Good job.
Thanks, John. And
Thank you.
I want to thank Chief and Chris for really, doing the lion's share of this research, for Dave and I to just pick on them for 2 or 3 hours at a time, and beat them up on every single line item. So thank you, Chris, and thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Niffy.
I would like to thank the committee.
Yes.
It's excellent job. And I think we need to vote on it, correct?
Yeah. Oh,
Is that
one
correct?
last, yes, we do need to vote to adopt the resolution. One last comment. This is an ultra conservative budget. There's probably really 70,000 in contingency that's in there, where there are grants, donations that we are 75% confident we'll be able to get. And so that reserve transfer is going to be larger. I just don't want to put anything in there that we can't 100% count on. So.
Yeah. That's why I was poking at it. I could smell it in there. Buried it well.
I move that we adopt the budget resolution of 2024. Is that right?
A resolution posted? Did I miss it entirely?
We just mean,
Oh, just
don't-
that we adopt the 2024 budget.
yeah, it's not in the
Thank
form of
you.
a resolution.
Sorry.
No, it's not in the form of a resolution. I'll second that.
Any
Any
further
other
discussion?
comments? Any other discussion? Online? No? Then,
I'll count to
call-
10 online just in case someone has an issue getting off mute or.
I don't have
Okay.
anything.
Okay.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Our draft budget is now passed. And there's lots of deadlines we still have to meet. And I gave Meredith a little packet because we just want to make sure we do everything, dot every I and cross every T.
And if HH passes, we do have to go back to the drawing board.
Yes, okay, that's true. Which leads us into this discussion, I'd just like to say, I have read pros and cons till my ears are bleeding or my eyes are bleeding, and it's just the most messed up proposition I've ever come across. However, we rely on the Special District Association to advise us on things such as this. And that's why their resolution, which basically says vote against it, was published on our website. I do have copies, hard copies, anybody can go on the website. But I'm bringing their resolution, posted it and put it on the agenda. And I feel that we, in this morass of confusion, I think for safety's sake, we need to follow the SDA's recommendation, which is to vote against it. So everybody needs to vote their conscience, but I don't know if we need to vote on the resolution. Niffy, do you think we need to vote on the resolution from the SDA?
If we're gonna post it to our website, then the board needs to vote on it.
Okay,
I understand that we have a quorum. We do have a quorum.
yes,
But I would like us to have a full board present if we're gonna vote on something like this that is gonna be posted on the website.
okay,
Is
the
that
issue
fair?
with that is Niffy, we don't meet again. We'd have to
Until
call a
after the
special.
election. Yeah.
Are you wanting to post it to like the front page of the website, Deb? Is that like your? Because it's posted in the resolution's posted in the minutes. Or in the documents underneath
I think it's posted in the agenda.
it's in the agenda. Sorry, thank you.
Yes.
It does not say that we're going to vote on it, though.
No, it was a discussion action.
Yeah.
It is a discussion action. I honestly just felt the most important thing was to get the SDA's resolution out to the public. And whether or not the board chooses to vote on it is not primary importance to me. If you feel we should have a quorum, then we can't vote on it tonight, Niffy. And unless we have a special meeting, it won't be voted on by the full board before the election, which is the 7th, I believe.
The board does have a quorum. You have 3 board
We
members
have a
present.
quorum. I would just
Yes,
like to have the
we have a
full board.
quorum. Niffy prefers the whole board would weigh in on this.
Well, I'm concerned about it myself, just because I'm of two minds about it. And I would prefer not to impose what's a voter's choice by stamping it with, we think everybody should follow the,
That's,
the
and
special
that's,
district.
and that's fair, and that's why I put it in the form of a resolution so that it could be posted for people to look at. Not necessarily that we vote on it, and it is a discussion action, and Niffy's point is well taken, and I think we'll just leave it as it is, Niffy. And, because there's no guarantee that we would pass it anyway as a board. It's just, it's out there. Chris Creech, is that your feeling about it? As a resolution, it's posted, people can read it and decide for themselves how to vote.
Why are we asking Chris?
Yeah, could it possibly be posted on the front page of the?
I think that would require a board vote.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
Okay, so should we just not do anything and move on?
I would, let's move on, yes. And by the way, I probably have 5 or 10 minutes left, so
Okay.
Let's do public comment.
I do have hard copies of the SDA resolution if anybody wants it. Okay.
So,
I do want to add a public thank you. I want to thank John for taking an entire day out of his own time to mow Station 2 with his tractor and his brush mower because it needed to be done, and he asked me to if he could go do it, and it was a big project, and I really want to thank you for doing that.
And Patty was there too.
She was there.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
we'll add it to Carrie's list.
Grass mitigation, yeah.
We said mow grass, so.
Yeah,
That's right.
it was
How
tall.
tall was it?
It was tall.
3 feet, yeah.
It was,
No,
it would
Ross,
never
my
be
agenda.
I do have a question,
Okay, Meredith.
about the timing of the budget. Well, I mean, if HH passes, then we have to revise the budget. Does that, suggest that we ought to change the date of the December meeting to give us a little more time? Or try to keep it where it is?
Yeah, the 15th of December
I
is
think
the,
we'll probably have enough time.
okay.
Niffy, what do you agree?
I agree. Except I'll be out of the country. But yes, we'll make it work. Because we had already planned conservatively, we could just remove some items and we'll be all right.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so
Because I think it's December 7th.
the deadline, I believe, for the budget.
No, is that when our meeting?
The-
when we-
the-
On my calendar, December 7th.
On the Grange count. Yeah.
Certification of the mill levy is 15 December, and the deadline to adopt the budget is 13 December. Wait, I might be looking at the wrong.
Is that right?
I think it's certification.
The meeting dates, I thought you moved the December up to December 7th. I could be wrong.
That's why I'm asking.
I still think we'll be okay, Meredith.
Okay.
I have the December 17th at the Grange.
Oh.
17th,
Okay.
but the deadline is the 15th. So I remember we moved it last year. And we can do that. It's not a big deal. We've got time.
Okay.
So, yeah, we need to have it probably the second Thursday.
Yeah.
I'll look at the deadlines are all over the place. The mill levy has to be. What's the deadline?
Assessors change.
December 17th, I'm sorry, is a Sunday.
Oh, is
It's
it?
the 15th of December for certification.
Correct.
It must have been the 7th, wait.
December 15th is what it
Is the
says on
deadline,
this.
yeah.
On
It's
this.
the deadline that I have, like I said, I have December 7th
Right,
as your December meeting because of the budget now.
I have a misprint on the thing that's on the, it's probably a misprint. We'll have to look at that and change things.
Just let me know so I can change it on the calendar.
I will.
Okay.
Okay, note to self.
Okay.
December meeting. Okay. And the deadlines are different if HH passes too.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's.
you have that.
Mhm, okay. The only other thing on here is, we're postponing the fee schedule, so
Yeah.
it's public comment.
Public comment is next, and then we're done if there's no more public comment.
I have just a couple of things. The website shows that December 7th is the meeting.
Aha, my paper's wrong.
Yeah,
Thank
December
you,
7th,
Chris.
Station 83 Grange Hall is the publicly posted meeting schedule for.
Okay,
And secondarily, just as I don't know if it would become a compliant. I mean, obviously, there was a resolution that was presented, and I think there should be a motion to withdraw the resolution instead of,
okay,
because it is listed as action discussion. And so if it's not going to be voted on, then I think a formal motion to withdraw it should be noted for the minutes.
thank you. I'll make that motion to withdraw the SDA resolution about HH, which I have here for you.
I
And I'm looking
second.
for a second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, Chris.
I move to adjourn.
Okay, our next meeting just before we do adjourn is November 16th. I hope that's correct. Now doubting my paper. And it is at Station 82. And move to adjourn is on the floor. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you,
all.
Nippy.
You bet.
One quick question for Niffy was, did you motion to adjourn, or did the barista motion to adjourn?
Did you see him on camera? He was telling me, he was like, by the way, dude, no pressure, but you got to get out of here.
You gotta go, man. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
I don't know if it makes a difference, but when you were talking with Sheila about the animal and you said 911 and it's actually out with alerts for your minutes. Oh.